Hi, this is Soleil at the Little Reader's Corner, and today I'm going to be doing a fully unscripted review and, I guess, just talk about Passenger by Alexander Bracken, which I finished about 20 minutes ago. Hot. Very hot. With my trusty chai tea. First off, my non-spoiler section. It took me about probably 2 full months to actually get through this book because first off, it is almost 500 pages, even though it doesn't entirely look like 500 pages. I would just guess this is a 300-page novel. However, it is almost 500, and I am a slow reader, as I have mentioned previously. So this did take me 2 months, not of straight reading, not that slow, but 2 months on and off of reading, so it did take me a while. I do think that the first 100 pages or so were a little slow for me, so that really hindered my reading of it in the beginning. But for the last part, it really picked up, and I just kind of sailed through it in the last week. So I think overall I would give it about like 8 out of 10. If you like time travel, this is the book for you. I, for one, enjoy time travel stories a lot. I have a blog post about it on my blog, which I will link down below, but I love time travel stories, especially if they're good. I love good time travel stories. Bad time travel stories are grating. If they don't think about the aspects of time, then what are they even doing? I think it's really important when someone writes a time travel story to think about consequences. Not even specifically, like, it doesn't even matter what kind of time travel that person personally like believes in, but just consider what the consequences might be if you travel back in time and change something. What might change in the future? If you say nothing, then let's have a talk, because something will change in the future. Oh, trust me, something will change in the future. Okay, I'm fine. Alright, so I guess that was my non-spoiler section of this review. I did enjoy it. It was a little slow. I think that it was pretty on the nose for anyone who enjoys stories about time travel and especially cares about them being accurate about consequences. Hint, 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 hint. So, yeah. And if you haven't read the book, then I advise you to leave because I'm about to crack it open like a walnut. So, goodbye. Read the book, read the book, read the book, read the book. Read the book, come back, and listen to my review. Okay. Hi, welcome back. You've read the book. Congratulations. Now, let's talk. Let's crack this walnut open. I've really enjoyed that expression. Actually, let's break open this message in a bottle. Okay, so I did think it started out slow, especially when they're on the boat in the beginning. Then it just felt like it was dragging a little bit, and Edda was just feeling like a little bit of a flat character towards the beginning. She just had like this one goal, this one train of thought, which is understandable because she was just tossed back in time. She just saw this like grandmother figure of her and like important person of hers die right in front of her. She doesn't know what's going on. She doesn't know what's happening with her mom. Like, all this crazy stuff is happening. And yet, I still think that she's kind of a flat character towards the beginning. All she can think about is music notes, music notes, music notes, and it just feels, a little heavy towards the beginning, and not the kind of heavy that's like dark heavy, just the heavy that kind of drags all the rest of the story down. And that's what kind of offset me, because I knew that I would enjoy this book. I just had to get through the beginning, because the whole plot sounded something of interest to me. A girl gets thrown back in time, there's a boy, they have to figure out all this time travel stuff, and hopefully there's consequences. And thank goodness there were consequences, which made a huge difference for me. It's really hot. I am really glad that there ended up being a lot more backstory to this book than I originally thought there was, because in the beginning it felt like it hadn't been fully flushed out, because they didn't bring a lot of backstory about the time travel. It felt just like they got thrown back in this one period. There are people with magic talents called travelers, and they can just travel through time, and there are magic portals, and it just didn't seem like there was going to be any explanation, but there was. It just happened a little later in the story than I expected it to be. So usually when a character is thrown into like this new world scenario, then the world is usually explained more towards the beginning. Like Harry Potter finds out about the magic world like much more towards the beginning of the story. Percy finds out about the world of demigods and gods and all this Greek life way in the beginning of the story. Same with City of Bones, etc., etc., etc. So when this happened more around page like 200, that caught me by surprise, but a good kind of surprise, because I'm very happy that it was more fleshed out than I expected it to be, and there was all of the background about the families and the rules of time travel and all these codes that they had to follow. Thank you. Thank you, Alexandra Bracken. Thank you for following. Just for figuring all of that out and letting the reader in on all this information that she like processed and thought through before when she was writing the book. Because that just makes the story so much more believable if you know that not everything's perfect. Things have gone wrong, there have been consequences for actions, and there are rules now in place because of all this tragic history, and that all the characters also had history. Actually, Sophia doesn't have as much backstory as I would like. She just seems... because towards the end she becomes the villain, and before she officially becomes the villain, she already feels a little dry. She's just kind of... she comes off as like a pissy girl who wants to be the heir and feels like she's been wronged her whole life and just hasn't gotten what she's deserved. I feel like she needs more drive. She needs to have been wronged more. Like, there has to be more history. Like, maybe someone along her family was like torn apart for some reason, something else went wrong. I feel like it's just too surface level for her to be this vengeful, especially towards the end when she wants to screw everyone over by changing all of time and just like screw up everything for the Ironwoods and for Cyrus, which is understandable. Cyrus isn't a good guy. No one's really rooting for Cyrus, but she just really wants to screw with everything, which of course is going to mess with everyone's lives down the line, especially for Etta and for Nicholas. She just seems like she needs more background and more villainous intention to describe everything that she's gonna do. I just have a lot of strict opinions on villains and on antagonists, because I think if we think about realistically, people need to have more intentions or more backstory or reasons that it can explain why they are so evil, which is why I had a problem with Sophia. She just seems pissy for no reason, really. I mean, I know that she, first off, like, the women's rights, like, back in the time when she grew up and when she's living are absolute dumpster hell, and she's not treated well in her family, she's not respected. Understandable. But she needs more motivation to want to screw up all of time. That's just what I think. Oh, the love. Okay, at first it was really slow, but then it got to this weird middle where it was at least like 200 pages before they started getting any kind of like intimacy, like real romance, but it still felt too sudden. I think it was because when I put it into perspective, Nicholas and Etta have only known each other for a couple days, so that felt a little weird. It's always weird to me when people fall in love in books in like 2 to 3 day spans, or like, I mean, then again, in The Sun Is Also a Star, that was with 1 day when they fell in love, so I guess I'm being hypocritical because that one felt a little more believable just because the time span felt so greater than all the interactions they had in here. It just felt strangely sudden that all of a sudden she was like, I wish I could touch him. And it felt like they hadn't even interacted that much before that moment. So that was a little much for me. But then when it got a little more towards the end and like the love and romance became like a little more and a little more intense, that's the point where it clicked and it felt like they had known each other and had been around each other and had been through enough together that the romance could really get started, and that's when it really kicked off. So it felt a little rushed towards the beginning, but at the end I think it really like smoothed out and all of that kind of added up. Now the ending. Rose just appearing on horseback and being like, where's my kid? Rose, girl, like she has not thought, she says she thought through everything, but then she just appears like 3 days late and expects them to both still be there, kind of waiting for her. She did say that she got caught up because she had to go through like all these different passages, but it seems like she didn't really think through that much, which isn't like a dig on the story or the writing. It's just like, Rose, what are you doing? Your kid is dead. Well, she's not dead. She's like thrown into a different timeline. One question I had for the end of this book, which I guess I'll find out when I read Wayfarer, but before I read Wayfarer, when Rose says that Etta is fine and she just got like out of her timeline, does that mean that there have now been 2 timelines created and they have to somehow jump into the alternate timeline? I guess they're in the alternate timeline right now, so it's not the original timeline because they already messed that up. Okay, so there are 3 timelines that we know of right now. There's the original timeline that, oh, I'm flipping you off. That's not nice, okay. So there's the original timeline, which Cyrus and the Ironborns all messed up. Then there was the second timeline, the second timeline, which was the one that Etta was growing up in and the one that she knew and she wants to go back to. And now there's the third timeline, which is the one that they just created by the Astrolab not having been destroyed. So is Etta now stuck in the second timeline because she got thrown out of the third one? And now somehow Nicholas or Rose has to jump from this timeline to this timeline? Because how? So that's everything I have to say today for my review of Passenger by Alexandra Bracken. Let me know your thoughts on reading Passenger, what you thought, if you agree with anything I said, if you have any questions, if you disagreed with anything I said. Thank you so much for watching. Have a great day, and if you really enjoyed this video, please hit the like or subscribe button and the little bell icon if you want to get notified the next time I post a video. Thanks so much for watching. Bye! And,